Hi, I'm Laura.
And I'm Joe.
And this is Crime Divers.
Hello everybody, welcome to today's episode.
Hello, welcome back. So, Joe, what's today's episode called?
Today's episode is called Pushed to the Limit.
Pushed to the limit.
Yes.
That doesn't really give anything away.
Well, I'll tell you right from the start what it is.
Oh.
This is a case of coercive control.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So,
something a bit different.
yeah, I haven't done one like this, and to be honest, I didn't really know much about coercive control.
No.
So we'll just get on with
Oh,
it.
I'm sure you'll tell us a story. So, where
Yeah.
in the world are we?
We're in England.
We're in England.
Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. Right, ready to dive in?
Let's dive in.
Let's go.
So the story is about Sally Challen, which Challen is her married name. I don't actually know what her maiden name was. So, but Sally was born in 1954 in Walton-on-Thames, which is in Surrey, in England.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 56 at the time of this case.
Mm-hmm.
When she was 6, her dad had died of a heart attack, and her mother didn't consider it appropriate for her daughter to pursue a career.
Right.
She had 4 older brothers who were all teenagers by the time she was born. So I think she was kind of quite sheltered, you know, and like protected by her brothers,
Right, yeah.
and you know, sort of brought up that it was the men that
Went out to work.
and they look after the women kind of thing. That was,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how she was brought up.
Right, okay.
So Sally, she met Richard Challen just before her 16th birthday in 1969. So he was 22 at the time. She'd never had a boyfriend before, and she was attracted to Richard straight away. Her brothers said that their father, he wouldn't have approved of Richard.
Okay.
Like the father, he must have been quite a bit snobby, I think, because like he considered them to be like upper middle class,
Oh, right.
you know, and like
Fair enough.
one of the brothers said something about he would like you if you were in the army, but if you were in like the navy or like the air force, then no, you weren't good enough. Like, you know.
Well, why wouldn't you be good enough? You're in the bloody armed forces, or just a different part of it.
Well, to me, I don't really like.
As long as you've got a blooming job,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
does it really matter?
I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but you know, the dad did sound a bit snobby.
Yeah, it does sound a bit.
And Richard, he wasn't like that. He wasn't like upper middle class, you know.
Right, okay.
So I don't think the dad would have approved. He wouldn't have been good enough.
Okay.
For his daughter, because like Richard, like he didn't have much when they first met. Like he had a second-hand car, and like he did it up. He like painted, like got rid of all the rust on it, and then he sold it for a profit. So he realised like he was actually quite good at that. So he started like just getting second-hand cars and doing them up and then selling them on to make a profit. So
Fair
that's eventually he had enough money to buy himself a garage, selling used cars. So that's what he did. That's how he made his money.
Well, to be honest, there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, and he was obviously doing really well. So maybe the father might have approved by then.
He changed his mind.
Yeah. So Sally and Richard got married in June 1979. Richard made Sally sign a prenup though to protect his money. But she said she didn't care. She loved him. She wasn't with him for the money. You know, it was fine. She's like, yeah, whatever.
Fair enough.
So they had 2 sons. James was born in August 1983, and David was born in April 1987. And I like in this story, I'll mention David more just because David has spoken out a lot about the case. But James, he's preferred to like, you know, just take a step back. He's
Right,
not,
okay, he doesn't want to get
He didn't
involved.
want to be in the limelight, basically.
Right, yeah. Oh,
Whereas
fair enough.
David, he would like speak to the media, and
Right, okay.
I think he's been on like This Morning and you know, things like that. So just if you're wondering kind of where's James in the story, you know, it's just because he's not really spoke out about it.
Right, okay.
So Richard's business must have done really well because they could afford to send the kids to private school, and they had like an upmarket house in an upmarket area. And they had this sort of lifestyle where it was, you know, like when it's all like dinner parties and...
Oh, all right, okay.
Well, not that kind of dinner party. What kind of dinner parties are you thinking of?
Oh, no, I just mean like very... Obviously like a posh thing, isn't it?
I was thinking like car key swapping
Oh
party.
no, I was thinking of that. Who's got the dirty mind? Because I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking.
It was just the way you kind of when you answered me. I just thought, did she just think it was something different to what I'm talking
I was thinking
about?
like a really posh.
Yeah,
like,
just
like
posh
tuxedos
yeah.
and all that sort of stuff.
like
yeah.
dinner parties, and like they had lots of friends and like a good social life. You know, there was always like.
But it's
stuff
now
to
at
do.
dinner parties like a probably barbecue and a few beers in the garden.
Well, that's what it'd be for us.
Totally.
But yeah, as I said, they always seemed to have lots to do. It was like an upper class lifestyle, basically.
Right, okay.
So they came across as like the perfect family. Sally's brothers said that like whenever they went to visit her, like she seemed happy and relaxed, and like Richard, he was always like really welcoming and charming.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's always a however, isn't there?
You like your howevers, don't you?
However, Sally said that Richard was very different in public to what he was in private.
Okay.
At home, he was controlling. She just didn't like to voice her opinion if it was different to his.
Mm-hmm.
In the early days, she had actually confronted Richard about him seeing another woman, and he dragged her down the stairs and threw her out the front door. So, like, after that, she didn't really confront. Well, she did confront him, but just not as much. You know, like I think a lot of it, she just let it go.
Yeah.
Because she was just scared that he would do something like that again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that she didn't speak up. Sometimes,
Yeah,
you
she
know.
just maybe picked her moments.
Yeah. So like, because when I was like researching, I did read that someone had said like she never confronted him again, and I'm like, but later on in the story she did confront him. So I think she must have just been scared to confront him.
Yeah, and didn't do it unless she felt like she really, really had to.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But people did notice over time that that she wouldn't pipe up as she normally would if she didn't agree with somebody. Like normally, like she could hold her own in an argument or a disagreement, or just like voicing her opinion. But like as time went on, she would just keep quiet, which just wasn't like her.
Mm.
And she started to like sort of like not see her family as much either. So it was kind of getting a bit more isolated, I think, from her family. So when the kids were a bit older, Sally got herself a part-time job working for the Police Federation. So now that she had a job, she had to pay for everything, including food and bills, which she struggled to do because she was only working part-time.
Well, why should it all of a sudden, just because she's earning a bit of money, she has to take over all the bills? I mean...
Because that's what he said. He was spending his money on fast cars and expensive watches and,
And she was meant to just... All her wages were just to pay with bills.
Yeah, basically, she was to pay for everything.
Lovely.
Yep. So in 1998, the family went on holiday to America. They stayed with one of their old friends his name is Dell, and he lived in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So he had actually been the one to introduce Sally and Richard to each other. So that's how far back they went.
Right,
They
okay.
obviously
They obviously knew him from a while back.
Yeah. So one evening while they were there, Dell grabbed Sally and kissed her. But it wasn't like a sexual kiss. It was like, I think they were going to bed. And it was like a good night kiss.
Yeah.
And he said that he would do that to any of his close friends. That's just, night, and a kiss and a cuddle. And that's all it was, which he'd done plenty of times before. And did, as I said, with any of his close friends.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard saw it and he just went completely mad. He told Sally to get into the bedroom and then he punished her by forcing anal sex on her.
But it wasn't even her fault.
Yeah, I know. And then he severed his relationship with Elle. So they left and they just didn't have a friendship with him anymore.
Oh, right.
But it's weird because he'd done it before. Like, and he'd obviously seen him, he would have seen him doing it with other people as well. It wasn't just his wife that he was kissing and cuddling.
If it's something that he did with everybody, then you would, it's not just going to have been her, is it?
Yeah.
And if they're that good friends, they would have been surely in other instances where he's done that to whether it be her or other people. So
he must have just been in a bad mood that night.
Must have been.
So when they got back, I just made that sound really flippant there, didn't I?
Yeah.
I didn't mean it like that. I don't know, something must have obviously set him off that he had
reacted in that
that
way.
he reacted in that manner, because obviously he hadn't reacted like that before.
No.
So something must have sort of triggered it for whatever reason. So when they got back from America, Richard started calling Sally names. Like he would call her like a slut, and he'd call her like thunder thighs and like just other horrible names and stuff like that. And I'm not even funny, she wasn't even big.
No.
Like to call her thunder thighs, I mean, even if she was big, that's unacceptable. You just don't speak to anybody like that. But she was a slim woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that just, to me, that was kind of a weird insult.
Yeah.
Like, because there was nowhere near the truth. You
Right,
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like if somebody, you know, like if they were like on a night out or something like that and somebody had paid her a compliment just saying, oh, you look really nice tonight, he would say, oh, you haven't seen her naked.
Ugh.
You know what I mean? Like, that's disgusting, isn't it?
No, that's awful.
And he also anally raped her a few more times. And Sally, she had 2 pieces of jewellery that she always wore. One was a bracelet and the other one was a necklace. And one day she'd went into work and her work colleague had noticed that she wasn't wearing them. Mm-hmm. And she asked why, because like Sally wore them every single day.
Right, so it was unusual for her not to have them on.
So she would notice, because it was quite chunky jewellery, so it was noticeable that she didn't have it on.
Yeah.
And Sally said that Richard said that she didn't deserve them and that he had locked them away in a safe as he hadn't been happy with something that she had done.
All right then.
So Richard obviously thought that the world just revolved around him. He expected Sally to work, pay all the bills, do all the housework and bring up the kids. Right. He didn't even know when the summer holidays were. Like, he actually confronted David and asked him why he wasn't at school. And this was in the middle of the holidays. Oh. So he'd obviously already been off for a couple of weeks, but he just mustn't have noticed.
Right, okay.
And then a couple of weeks later, he's like, why not at school?
Yeah.
And it was the summer holidays, so that's weird.
That
I mean, like,
weird.
If your child...
Well, surely you must know. I mean, even if you didn't really know, your wife or whoever would have told you, well, the kids are off, and you would notice.
You wouldn't notice if the kids are around.
I think,
even if you don't have kids, you know roughly when the summer holidays are.
Yeah. I don't know the exact dates, but you probably know it exactly.
I mean, I know, I don't have kids at school, but I know that the summer holidays are sometime round about now, I think. I think they're about to start, aren't they?
They finish up on Friday.
Well, there you go. So, like... Exactly. Yeah, people always know sort of when, roughly, the summer holidays are.
Yeah, exactly. So that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. So, and this is, I just can't believe this. For 2 years in a row, Chris...
You're making up names again.
No, I was going to say Christmas. Because Richard sent out a Christmas card as well, I was trying to say. Okay. Right, you know how, like, in America, like, it's quite the common thing to do is for when they send out Christmas cards, they send out like a family photo. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that probably seems normal to our American listeners, but like we're in the UK and it's not, we don't really do that.
I think it does get done
maybe a bit more now.
But probably back then I don't think it really was a thing.
Yeah, no. I think you would find it unusual for somebody to do that.
Yeah.
So Richard sent out a Christmas card to all their friends and neighbours with a photo on the front. So now you would think it would be of him and Sally and the boys.
I'm assuming it's not.
With their Christmas jumpers on, maybe woolly hats or scarves. You know, snow in the background.
Yeah.
No.
Was it just him?
No. He was, you know, as I said, he bought fast cars and stuff. That's what he was spending his money on. He liked cars. So the photo was of Richard, like, leaning on a car bonnet, straddled by naked women. There was, like, two naked women.
So not even in his family?
No.
But yeah, it was from the family.
No, I think it was actually from his work. I think it was like Merry Christmas from whatever the garage's name was.
Right.
So maybe that's why there's a car on it. But the naked women...
Okay.
And they were absolutely naked. I looked online and I'm not sure because my eyesight's not that great. I'm not sure it was blurred out on one of them because they were kind of sitting front on. But there was one where the girl's sort of standing and she's got her hand covering her lady bits. You know, so...
Okay then.
But like, imagine getting that as a Christmas card.
Yeah. And
especially from her, your brother-in-law.
Yeah, that's a bit... Yeah, okay.
So...
He's all very about himself, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I think he thinks that the world revolves around him. So, David, their son David, he said that Sally was a great mum. Like, she was always there. She would always listen to him. And when he realised that he was gay... He went straight to her and, you know, talked to her about it, but there was an unspoken agreement that they wouldn't tell his dad. And I just thought, if there's an unspoken agreement, then they obviously just know that he wouldn't take that well. You know, that
I was going to say
he wouldn't be accepting of it, and just...
Which is a shame.
Yeah, but like...
But it must... I don't know how much it happens now, but I'm assuming it must still happen in some ways. I mean, it probably happened more... I think it would happen more back then as well than it does now, because I think it's definitely more accepted now, of course.
But I think what more speaks volumes is not the fact that he wouldn't accept be accepting of it, which is bad enough, but the fact that there was an unspoken...
Like, they know not to even approach them with it.
They just knew not to even approach them. There was no conversation about, oh, what am I going to say to my dad or anything like that. It was just like, they know it was a no-go. So that kind of shows you what he was like.
Yeah.
So David, he said the house was a happy one when it was just Sally and the two boys, but the atmosphere would change as soon as Richard came in from work.
Mm-hmm.
James, the other son, he the one thing that he did say, he just said that they were always on edge when their dad was there. Like, dinner was always uncomfortable because Richard would always be complaining that Sally hadn't cooked the meal to his liking. So the boys were, as they grew up, they were getting more and more aware of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like they didn't know that something was going on.
Yeah, because I think what it sounded like from what I was reading, it was kind of like when they were younger, he was just like, I mean, you don't really notice things so much when you're younger anyway, but like to them, he was a good dad. He would like take them places and do things with them and stuff like that. But as they got older, I think they were more aware of
what it was like, especially to their mum.
Yeah, but even to them as well. I mean, like, they weren't allowed to use the TV when Richard wasn't there, and if Richard was there and he was watching the TV, nobody else was allowed to talk. Like, if anybody else talked, he would just turn the volume up, like, just to drown them out. Like, that's just rude.
Yeah, that is very rude.
And they weren't allowed to use the phone either, so Richard would, like, hide away. He would, like, lock the phone away.
For God's sake.
So basically, what he said was, well, I paid for it, so why should you get to use it when I'm not here? That is and it's like,
so
you're a dad!
So he locked the phone when he wasn't even there, so they couldn't use it?
Yeah.
Jesus. That's
what if there was an emergency?
Well, I was going to say, what if, like, somebody had an accident and it's the phone 999?
Exactly, they'd have to run to a neighbour's house. But, like, to say, I bought this so you can't have it, it's like, but you're a dad. Like, you should know that you are going to have to share your money.
Oh, yeah, because you've got to provide for your family, so they obviously are included in your stuff.
Yeah, it's just... Oh.
My God.
I know.
That's like me sitting at home and Justin going, yeah, I'm watching TV, but because I've paid for it, I'm taking the remote with me while I go to work.
Don't give me any ideas.
No, I was going to say I shouldn't give him any ideas at all. But Jesus, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, I mean, like that. This is what she was having to deal with. You know, this control. Like, that's all it is. It's all part of control. And like, if Sally annoyed Richard, which I'm assuming was pretty often by the sound of things, he would stop her from using her car. She would he must just take the keys off her or whatever, because she did have her own car. It wasn't his car that she was using. So she annoyed him. Like, she'd still be allowed to drive to work, but that would be it. She'd have to drive to work and drive back. She wasn't allowed to use the car for anything else.
As long as she gets to work to earn her money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it'll be, as long as she goes to earn her money. So in 2003, Richard started going out to salsa dancing. Right? I found that really strange, because I thought, no, we got to salsa dancing, but sure, would you not go with your wife?
Well, it just doesn't even sound like something that he would do. Like,
Well, I'm assuming he didn't. And that was just an excuse, but you would have thought he would have come up with something more believable.
Well, yeah.
But no, what struck me was, like, if my husband... I was actually just laughing at the thought of my husband doing salsa dancing. But if John wanted to go salsa dancing, surely I would be going with him. Like, surely it'd be a thing that couples would do, the two of us, unless you're single.
Well, yeah, hi.
But if you're part of a couple, surely that's a couple of things to do. Or you do it with your mates or something like that. Not just one person just going and doing it themselves.
It does seem a bit...
It does.
You think you could have come up with something better or more believable?
Well, yeah, exactly. And to anybody that does salsa dancing, if you do it by yourself, great, on you go. But it just doesn't seem like he would do that.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to fit in with this story.
No, it doesn't. So he was out all the time. So Sally became suspicious, and she started like going through his pockets, and she found a receipt which showed that he wasn't where he said he had been. And she found some Viagra tablets as well. So obviously he was up to no good. But I think all the way through this marriage, all through the relationship, I think he was seeing other women.
Right, okay.
You know, there's probably too many to mention.
And
a few months later, she found a receipt for the Prince of Wales Theatre, which is in London. But he was supposed to be in Germany at that time. So, you know. And she actually did ask, see, this is what I mean, she did actually ask him about it. So that wasn't true what I said earlier about her not confronting him, because she did ask him about it.
Right.
And his excuse...
Oh, God, it's going to be...
He's a rubbish liar. Things always get stuck to my shoes, so that must have been where it came from. You know, like if you come in the house and something's stuck in your shoe.
Right, aye.
How did it get in his pocket then?
Well, why didn't you put a bucket?
Yeah, exactly. So he's a rubbish liar.
Yeah, totally.
And if Sally ever did question Richard about anything, he would just say, "Oh, you're going crazy. You're making it up. It's all in your mind." So he would be making her think
that she's doubt herself.
Yeah, that was all in her mind. And he would say things like, "How dare you? Like, why are you questioning me? Like, you'll lose me if you question me. Things like that." It's just that that's abuse.
That is
it
abuse.
Really is.
Oh, totally, that is abuse. Yeah.
When their sons got older, they would actually confront their dad about him having affairs, but he would just deny it. And he would still bully Sally in front of them and their friends. Can you imagine your dad bullying your mum in front of your friends? Not in front of you, but your friends as well. So those poor boys, they hated it.
I bet.
So Sally would look at Richard's mobile phone and she would Google the numbers that she would find, and she found one that he was calling 2 or 3 times a week. And this was a place called Pandora's, which immediately I thought, oh, Pandora's like jewellery? Like he's buying jewellery for his girlfriend? No, it's a brothel. I was wrong. See, I have such an innocent mind, don't I?
Yeah, sometimes.
So it was a brothel. Word got around that Richard had been visiting the brothel, and friends and neighbours actually stopped inviting them to parties, because remember, they live in this upper middle class. So people actually just wanted to avoid the couple because Richard would just decide that he didn't want to be friends with somebody anymore. And if he wasn't friends with them, that would mean that Sally wasn't allowed to be friends with them. So it sounds like on top of all of this stuff, he was isolating her as well.
Oh, it does sound like it, yeah.
But she was allowed a friend called Sarah. But that's because she lived in Scotland. And Richard had actually met her husband, Sarah's husband, first. So it's like he was even in control of the fact that they became friends. So, he approved. Right. And Sarah, she was quoted as saying about Sally, quote, "There's only one thing she talked about, and that was Richard. It was endless. For all the years I knew Sally, she was besotted with him. Absolutely, desperately in love. She didn't want to anger or upset him. She just wanted to be loved by him. And from the outset, you could tell that it wasn't going to happen," end quote. So, I mean, what I think I've kind of, failed to sort of mention it is that, yes, she was putting up with all this abuse, but she was still in love with him. She still wanted to be with him. She was besotted with him. And as Sally, as Sarah said, she just wanted to be loved by him. Which I hadn't kind of said that before. So, but Sally, she started to drink more and she was smoking more, and she was just stressed and she just wasn't coping very well.
Doesn't sound like it.
But as I said before, she loved Richard and she just wanted to make him happy. That was
she'd do anything for him.
Yeah,
basically.
that was basically what she wanted. She just wanted her husband. She loved him and she wanted him
to love her back. The way that she would. The way that she should be.
It's sad, isn't it?
And deserves to be.
So one day, she went shopping and she bought new bedding, and she got a new silky nightie and a nightgown to go with and everything like that. And she put it on for Richard, and he didn't even say anything. That is just awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously she got really upset. So she ran downstairs and she grabbed a bottle of wine, which she took out to the car in the garage, and she locked the doors and she put the song Patience on by Take That.
Oh yeah.
But she was sobbing and screaming so loud that she could be heard in the house over that music in the garage. That's how she was obviously just
distraught.
Frustrated and upset and just letting it all out. So Sally was at her GP a lot. She would tell him about her lack of sleep, how stressed she was. She had no appetite, and she knew that she smoked and drank too much. Sorry, I just got distracted there. And then the brothel that Richard went to, I was just kind of jumped. That's why I got distracted, because I kind of jumped a bit from her being at her GP to. I should have said it at the start with this case. I didn't really get a timeline when I was researching. So I don't know if I'm telling you this in the right sort of order of events or anything. Okay. It seemed a bit kind of all over the place. So I think that's maybe why. If it does sound all over the place, I do apologise. So anyway, the brothel that Richard went to, that was actually raided. And the following week, Sally called the police and she said that she wanted to speak to the inspector in charge, saying that, quote, she may have information that may help their convictions of the people they were arrested last week in relation to the brothels, the prostitutes, etc. No, I was going to say end quote, but I'm not finished quoting. And I'm doing this because my husband is partly involved. The operator asked her if her husband was there, and Sally said, no, he's dead. I'm a stressed wife and please don't push me. I actually heard the recording of that.
Right.
She was like, and she was so serious with it. But then Richard grabbed the phone, so he wasn't dead.
Right.
Richard grabbed the phone, and the operator, for God's sake, the operator asked if everything was all right, and he said hardly. But when the operator said, do you need some help? Because I feel like something has happened there. He said, not as yet. But thank you for your concern, and explained that his wife had had too much to drink.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know what he meant by not as yet, because nothing actually happened after that.
Right, okay.
But after that, Sally, she realised that the brothel, they'd been using like trafficked women. So it was bad enough that he was using a brothel, but the fact that he was condoning, it was trafficked women, she was just like, right, that's
enough.
it.
Yeah.
I've had enough. I have to leave him.
Yeah, totally.
So she had some inheritance money. So she moved out and she bought a house, which she moved into with David, who was 22 by now. So that just goes to show how long she's been putting up with this abuse for. Like, David's 22 by now. In fact, David was the youngest, so James would have been older than that, about 3 years older than that.
Oh, bloody hell, yeah.
Well, anyway, put it this way, they were married for 31 years.
Ah, yeah.
And James, he'd actually already moved out with his girlfriend, so that's why he didn't move in with her. And Richard, he stayed in the family home. So David and James were so happy that she had finally left their dad, and they were adamant that she needed to stay away from him. Mm-hmm. But she really missed him. She didn't know what to do with herself because she was so used to doing everything for Richard. She was so used to being told what to do.
Right, yeah, she didn't know how to do stuff for herself.
Yeah,
do what she wanted.
She didn't have anyone to tell her what to do now, so she was like,
what did I do?
Lost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she felt like she just didn't have a life anymore. So she ended up asking Richard to take her back. So he sent her an email. So I'll read you like just some of the email. So this is from Richard. It's been a very difficult time for me since you left me. A choice you made without discussing it with me after 30 years of marriage. I think I deserved more. You, James and David enjoyed a good lifestyle and have shared some super holidays together. I have paid for the boys' education throughout their lives and we shared a super home together. Now you want to return and start again. I will consider your return, but only on these terms. You will continue and complete the divorce only with a £200,000 settlement, which was a lot less than she was entitled to. Like, they'd been married for 31 years. Mm-hmm. Their house, I think, was valued at about $1 million. Right. So even with the house, like,
oh wow. So
she had to take the 200,000 settlement. Because like if they split up again, it doesn't matter because she's already had her settlement. They've already been divorced. So, and the email also said, when we go out together, it means together. This constant talking to strangers is rude and inconsiderate. We will agree to items in the home together. You will give up smoking, and you will give up your constant interruptions when I'm speaking. End quote.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
She agreed.
Oh my God,
She agreed to these conditions.
Why? Why?
Because she loved him and she just wanted to be with him.
I know, but come on.
I know. I know, it's frustrating for us. Mm-hmm. So she would secretly visit him. So she didn't even tell her sons or anything. So he told her that they could see each other once a week to see if Sally had changed.
Oh my God, I think he's the one who needs to bloody change.
She still didn't trust him though, and whenever they did meet up, she would still check his phone and read his messages, as she knew that he was still seeing other women.
Right.
So on the 13th of August 2010, Sally went to visit Richard. He told her to go out and get something for lunch, but she had a feeling that he just wanted her out the house for a bit. So when she got back, she looked at his phone, and she was right. He'd wanted her out of the house so that he could phone somebody.
Right. Okay.
So she rang the number. And because he must have been out of the room, I don't know where he was, maybe at the toilet or something. And a woman answered. She spoke to her, and this woman told her that she had been seeing Richard and that they'd met through a dating agency called Dinner Dates.
Okay.
So he hadn't even just just by chance met this woman and fell for her. He's actually went to a dating agency and signed up for it.
Asshole.
Yeah. Sally asked Richard about it, and he told her not to question him. So Sally cooked him bacon and eggs for lunch, and he sat down at the table to eat. Sally took a hammer out of her handbag and hit Richard over the back of the head with it. She hit him about 20 times until she was sure that he was definitely dead.
Do you know something? I actually thought that was not going the way it was going. I actually thought she was going to be the one that got killed by him. I totally didn't see that she was going to be the one that snapped and actually killed.
Well, it was called Push to the Limit.
Oh, I realise that now, but I was thinking it was always going to be her for some reason.
No, she killed him. She then stuffed a tea towel in his mouth, just in case he was still breathing. And then she wrapped his body in blankets and curtains, and then she wrote a note saying, "I love you." She then washed the dishes, and then she left. She went to a shop to buy wine and cigarettes, and then wrote a suicide note. But she wanted to do it after she'd seen David one last time. So the next day, Sally dropped David off at work and said to him, "You know I love you, don't you?" Mm-hmm. So she was planning on killing herself by jumping off the top of a car park, one of these high-rise ones.
Yeah. Multi-story ones.
Yeah, that's it, multi-story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so she drove to a multi-story car park, but it was closed. So she kept driving until she came to some cliffs. So she decided she was going to go and jump off the cliff.
Right.
So she was standing on top of the cliff and she called her cousin. And she confessed to what she had done the day before. Mm-hmm. But people saw her standing at the edge of the cliff and called for help. So a suicide team came out and she confessed to them as well.
Right.
She told them that she hit him lots of times with a hammer, and if she couldn't have him, no one could.
Because he was bloody God's gift to the body earth, right enough.
So it took, to her.
Yeah.
So it took them 2 hours to talk her down, but they did. They talked her down. David said that when he was told that his mum had killed his dad, he didn't even think to ask why. That's, he just knew.
She snapped, basically.
Which, I think that's very telling.
Yeah.
So David said that he didn't learn the extent of the abuse until after his dad died. He said he didn't know that it was abuse. Mm-hmm. He said he didn't know that the way that his dad treated his mum was horrible. But I think just because he was that used to it, that was all
normal.
he knew.
Yeah.
He just didn't realise that it was abuse. Mm-hmm. 10 months later, it was Sally's trial. So the prosecution... What are you looking at?
That's just the wind.
I don't like it when you do that. I think there's somebody behind me.
No.
The prosecution painted her as a jealous and possessive woman. Mm-hmm. And that the woman that Richard had called was just a friend.
Right.
And the woman did testify, and she said... Oh, Richard was a lovely man. He was charming, but she probably thought
she
that.
Bloody know him.
Yeah, exactly.
For 5 minutes.
So he probably came across as being a lovely man. But the prosecution told the court that Sally checked Richard's phone and she didn't trust him. And of course, because she had said to the suicide team, "If I can't have him, then no one can have him." It does make her look like jealous, possessive, unfortunately. But Sally's defence team. Don't think they did they didn't do a very good job.
Right.
So rather than going for a provocation defence, which you would think they would because she was provoked, they went for diminished responsibility instead.
Right.
They used her medical history and some evidence from a psychiatrist who had diagnosed her with depression to show this. But because she had taken the hammer with her, because she'd taken it from her house, and there was some other evidence from another psychiatrist, this just wasn't believed.
Right.
So the jury had no idea about Richard's behaviour. Her defence team thought it might reflect bad on Sally if they spoke ill, basically if they spoke ill of the dead. They didn't want to speak bad about him because...
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It is. I mean, the guy is dead and you don't like to speak ill of the dead, but in this case, it needed to be told.
Well, yeah, because that's the reason why she was pushed to the limit.
So the jury didn't know about it. So obviously, she's not looking very good.
No.
So after a 7-day trial... Sally was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 22 years. And I don't know why, but in November 2011 it was reduced to 18 years.
Right.
The judge told her that she had been eaten up with jealousy at Richard's friendships with other women. And he said, you are somebody who killed the only man you loved and you'll have to live with knowing what you did. But back then the law was different. The word control was used in the trial, but domestic abuse was only classed as physical violence.
Right.
So because
wasn't classed as mental.
Because she didn't have bruises, did she? The sort of abuse that Richard was doing to Sally, that wasn't a crime. It wasn't recognised as. So in 2015, though, a new law came into force, and this law recognises coercive control as a crime and as a form of domestic abuse.
Right.
So the maximum penalty for that crime is either 5 years in prison or a fine or both. So Sally's defence team put in an appeal. Her lawyer said that the new law supported a defence for Sally that would reduce her conviction to manslaughter or would allow her a retrial. So in February 2019, after serving 8 years of her sentence, Sally's appeal was heard. Her murder conviction was quashed, and a retrial was ordered at the Court of Appeal after a panel of 3 judges ruled that it was unsafe in light of new evidence that was not available at the time of her trial.
Right, okay.
So speaking outside the court, David said it's an amazing moment because her sons, both of them, even though she'd killed him, their dad, they knew why. Yeah. So they supported her. So the courts have acknowledged this case needs to be looked at again, as we have always said as a family. The abuse her mother suffered, we felt, was never recognised properly, and her mental conditions were not taken into account. As sons, we get another shot for our story to be heard, the events that led to our father's death to be heard, and for our mother to have another shot at freedom, a freedom she has never had since the age of 15. On the 1st of July 2019, Sally was supposed to attend a retrial, but on the 7th of June she attended a hearing at the Old Bailey, and the prosecution said that the Crown accepted her plea to the lesser charge of manslaughter and she wouldn't have to attend a retrial. Her murder conviction was changed to manslaughter and her sentence was changed to 9 years and 4 months, which was time already served. So she was released. Oh. Yeah. So she was released in 2019.
Wow.
So she did get punished. She said,
she obviously did. Yeah, I mean, like, don't get it wrong. You can't take away the fact she did kill him.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's not acceptable at the end of the day that she did kill him. But
she always said that as well. She always said, and her sons as well, they always said they weren't claiming that she was innocent.
No,
they were just claiming that
there were circumstances.
Yeah, there were circumstances, and that wasn't looked at. The fact, and that's it. Like, but now coercive control is
a crime.
Yeah. So if anybody listening to this story recognises any of that kind of behaviour, you can report them and they can be punished for it now.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because
that's it. Abuse isn't just physical; it is mental.
And it's about. I mean, 2015. It's about time that it was recognised.
Oh, definitely.
That's way too late.
I know. So that's it. I mean, she got punished because she did actually kill him. So
yeah, of course. I mean,
she deserved to probably get punished for that, but she obviously also deserved it to be recognised that, he was at fault and he was, abusing her mentally.
Yeah. I think she knows that as well. She's always said that. She knows that she needed to be punished.
Yeah.
She knows that she's not God. You can't just go and kill people.
Oh, no, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like...
It's not very often you feel actually sorry for the murderer.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Because I do feel sorry for her. I don't condone or excuse the fact that she still killed a man.
But to think
what led up, like, I mean,
what she went through to
what
get
she
there.
went through, yeah. I mean, I do obviously feel for her in that sense. So yeah, let's say it's not.
And the thing is, it's not very often that you hear of a case like this. I mean, you get victims that kill their abuser, but it's usually in like self-defense.
Yeah.
They kill him, but this wasn't self-defense.
No.
This, he was sitting with his back to her, eating his lunch. But she obviously just got to that point.
She had enough.
Yeah, and as I said, I don't condone it.
No.
But she's been punished. She did get punished for it, and I'm glad it was recognised.
Yeah.
And I think hearing her story is a good thing as well, because did you know that that law came into force in 2015?
I honestly thought it was always there. There you go.
I think a lot of people wouldn't have maybe known so much about it because because Sally obviously has spoken out a lot about it, and so has David, her son. So it's more known now and it's good to be known because women are, men as well, suffering from this and not realising that they can actually get their abusers punished for it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people might not even realise that it is abuse. Like, there's her sons, they didn't even realise it was abuse.
That's it, I know.
So there you go. So that was a little bit of a different one.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
no, it's good.
But I'm glad, she got punished, but I'm glad she's out now.
Yeah.
And she can...
Hopefully learn to live a life of freedom.
Well, yeah, that's what she... the last thing that I read that she'd said, because obviously that's like 2 years ago now she was out, but she was kind of like, what do I do with myself now? I need to learn to live a life by myself because her kids are grown up.
Well, that's
and she moved in, she never went back to where she lived. She moved in with James.
Right, okay.
But then she obviously knew that she couldn't live with him forever. So, she just have to learn to live a life by herself, basically. And
do what she wants to do.
Hopefully be able to have the rest of her life being a decent life.
Totally. Right.
So there we go.
Thanks
Done.
for listening to that.
Yeah, so if you'd like to follow us on social media,
We are crime_divers_pod.
and that was on Instagram and Twitter because I actually forgot to
Yep,
say
I
that.
just realised that.
Our email is
crime_divers_pod@outlook.com.
you can Crime Divers Podcast. You can find us on YouTube,
TikTok,
TikTok, and something else.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yep, just look for us.
Exactly.
And if you'd like to join our Patreon, then it's patreon.com/crime divers, and prices start from as little as £1 a month.
And if you do like listening to us, please don't forget to subscribe,
Rate,
review.
review.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.